Is the headline on this article disrespectful? Well, depending on your feelings about political correctness or whether you or someone close to you is or has been a cancer patient, you could find my willingness to talk about media, Influency, Twitter, and cancer all in such close proximity incredibly offensive, and if you do, that's your right, and I don't care. Not I don't care in some callous, unfeeling way. I very much care about how the things I say and write make people feel. But there's a media firestorm brewing over the way there's a media firestorm brewing over the tweeting of a terminal cancer patient. And this is exactly the time and place to discuss the matter. Influency comes from a lot of places, and none of us are in control over the way other people strive to achieve influency. A few days ago, my fiancée told me about a blog she was reading. She'd come across it through a friend of a friend who'd passed along a piece from The Guardian, and she and I agreed that it was more about whether it was okay to talk about a terminal illness out loud in public as one is suffering through the stages of such an illness than it was about the illness itself or the woman whose cancer was under this particular and becoming more magnified media microscope. The question then, and more than ever now, was what it says about people who are willing to do that. The issue became more interesting yesterday, transcending the conversation about cancer and tweeting when Bill Keller, the former executive editor of the New York Times, wrote an op-ed piece in the Times. Well, take a look at Keller's piece. In particular, take a look at the address of the page. It's a beautiful example of a content creator paying attention to optimization. Yes, even the New York Times cares about building influency through search engine optimization, and wait, it gets better. The woman who wrote the original piece at The Guardian is Bill Keller's wife. And another editor at the Times took the whole thing a step further still when late yesterday she published a piece about Bill Keller's piece, and the SEO on that article puts the solid optimization on Keller's article to shame. So now, does anyone even remember that this started out as a blog by a dying cancer patient? Again, whatever you think about someone living out their death in public, the subject is morphed. The news reporters have become the news makers, and that's influency. And it's considered to be bad form in most discussions about journalism. Now, after that 400 plus words about tweeting and cancer patients that serve as this story's way too long lead, let's move on to what made me decide to write about this today. And yeah, be cynical. I'm doing content marketing, and I'm building SEO for the cancer tweet story. And although we rank very highly for this story about suicide, I have no illusions about success on the latter point because too many sites far bigger than this one have written about cancer tweeting. Journalism is in trouble. I thought I'd seen the ultimate example of that years ago when AOL let M.G. Siegler write about the importance of Michael Arrington's editorial voice to TechCrunch in TechCrunch. And Cancer Tweet Gate is pretty bad, but this morning something caught my eye that I could hardly believe. I came across this story at Mashable, and credit where it's due, it's an amusing story written by an author who seems to believe that her generation is the only generation. Here's her lead. Most of us remember the 90s fondly. We remember coming home from school and flipping on Nickelodeon. We all laughed when some poor, unsuspecting contestant on a game show got covered in slime. We loved Doug, The Adventures of Pete and Pete, Rugrats, and Saved by the Bell. The 90s were a magical time to grow up. Terrific. The editors at Mashable, an entity that's been rumored to be the target of an acquisition attempts by real journalism outposts like CNN, thought it was okay that Ms. Romano make people specifically her age the target and voice of their entire operation. Most of us remember the 90s fondly based on the youth-targeted television programs we watched? Really? Mashable's editorial voice and bent apply, it seems, only to people in their mid-30s. Well, this links to the cancer tweeting story because of the nature of such segmentation. Mashable is only for people of a certain age? Who do you suppose the New York Times is for? Or The Guardian? We know who the cancer tweet blog is for, right? Or do we? It all comes back to managing influency. There are a lot of pieces, and they all matter, even to media outposts who you'd think could stay above the issue and just report, because that's their job. Sounds complicated, right? Well, that's why we're here. I'm the answer guy, and I'll be back.